Welcome everyone to part one of the weekly Q&A video here. Should be fun, I hope. Make sure you check out part two. That will come up in a little bit. As always, part one sticks primarily to football related questions. Part two of the Q&A will talk on a variety of other topics. Well, let's go ahead and get started here with part one. My man Vinny, behind the burner account, not Jeff's ego, asks, first question. Should people really care about PEDs in the National Football League? I guess it depends on if you believe in that crap about integrity of the game or this and that, level playing field, all that other stuff. Should they really care? I don't know. I think the more important question, Vinny, is do people really care? And I think the answer is probably not. Probably not. I don't know that many people are that moved by that or care that much about it, frankly. It is just a media talking point to create some type of sensationalism. But I don't think PED use drives people away, so I don't know that they do care. I don't know if they should care or not, but I don't know that they do. And then he also asked, this is a great question, what about Gary Myers saying if he knew Terrell Owens wouldn't show up, he wouldn't have voted for him? My first response is Gary Myers should no longer be a Hall of Fame voter. Because that is not what this is supposed to be about. The Pro Football Hall of Fame is supposed to be about recognizing greatness and legends of the game on the field for their on-the-field performance. And T.O., based off of his performance, based off of the body of work of his career, his statistics, is clearly a Hall of Famer. You vote for him based off of that, and that's it! Whether he shows up or not. So if we employ that logic elsewhere, if Jerry Kramer, let's say this year, couldn't show up because he physically couldn't make the trip, do we not vote him in because he couldn't fucking make it? Do we no longer vote in anybody that's dead because, oh, they can't fucking be there, so I'm not going to vote for him? Like, I agree with what you're getting at, Vinny. This is so stupid and so fucking ridiculous. Even though T.O.'s decision is stupid and ridiculous and idiotic and selfish and, frankly, so many things that perfectly represent who Terrell Owens was as a player, he still deserved to be in the Hall of Fame. And not voting for him because of that, to me, is an indication of everything that is wrong with the process, and Gary Myers should be immediately stripped of his right to vote in future years. If a guy can't show up, we're not going to vote for him. Then you'll never vote in a dead guy ever again. I mean, what's the difference in the logic here? Jake Richardson asks, will Teddy Bridgewater ever be given the chance to show again that he could be a franchise NFL quarterback? I don't know. I don't think so. He would have to get a really fortunate situation, get really lucky, and then really be able to ball out quickly to be able to be given a long-term chance, and I just don't know that that's ever going to happen. Chet Awesome Laser asks, your favorite all-time bad or subpar football player? God, that is a great, excellent question. My favorite all-time bad or subpar football player? Ooh. That is a great question. I don't know what the answer is. Maybe going back to the Bears teams of the mid to late 90s that were really bad. Maybe somebody like John Mangum. Well, that's a name from the past, isn't it? I'll go with him. It's the first name that I could come up with. Alan Graham. After Sweetness, Walter Payton. Who's the most important Bear of all time? Is it Urlacher, Singletary, Butkus, Ditka? None of them. Walter Payton is not the most important Bear of all time. To me, he's not even top two. He's the greatest Chicago Bear player of all time, yes, but that doesn't mean he's the most important. The most important Chicago Bear of all time is Papa Bear George Halas. They call him Papa Bear for a reason. He created and founded the team. He helped create and found the league that we still watch to this day. That is end of discussion. They call him the Papa Bear for a reason. Because he planted his seed and gave birth to both the organization and the damn league. And I would argue in the greater realm of Bears history that Sid Luckman would be the second most important Chicago Bear of all time because they won 4 championships with him as their quarterback running the T formation in the 40s. Walter's up there, obviously, and Walter is the greatest Chicago Bears player of all time. But the most important Chicago Bear of all time is George Halas, because even if you want to talk about Ditka, ultimately, who drafted Ditka, the same Ditka that was a key offensive cog in the 63 NFL championship team? George Halas. Who's the guy that hired Mike Ditka to come in and be the head coach starting with the 1982 season? George Halas. It's George Halas, and the conversation ends. Mike Schmidt asks, who is better, Kirk Cousins or Alex Smith? To me, Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins. JT Evans, the most overrated NFL team heading into 2018. I maintain right now that I believe it could be the Los Angeles Rams. This is a team that I feel like thinks they were a lot closer than they really were last year. This is a team that has brought in names, notable names, with some challenges like Aqib Talib and Marcus Peters and Ndamukong Suh. And people are assuming that that automatically is going to equate to some great big leap of improvement, and it just might not be the case. I'm not saying the Rams can't make the playoffs next year, but people are ready to crown their asses as like the Super Bowl contender in the NFC, and I just don't see that. Ethan Fuller, who would you rather have, Mitchell Trubisky or Patrick Mahomes in 2018? I think Mahomes' situation is better in Kansas City, and I think Mahomes is the better overall quarterback talent, so I would take Patrick Mahomes. Justin Meadows, if Carson Wentz starts week 1, what are your expectations for him in 2018? My expectations for him in 2018 is it might take him just a little bit to get back up to speed and get comfortable back playing on that surgically repaired knee. Might take him a little bit in the offense a little bit to get back in rhythm. But I expect him to play at a pretty high level like he was doing in 2017 before the injury, playing at an MVP type of level. I expect him to eventually figure it out and be just fine. Chase Oliver, with Ovechkin winning the Stanley Cup, is there another athlete in another sport that you want to see the title win a title similar to him? Another athlete that I would want to see win a championship, somebody that's waited a long time, somebody that got a lot of criticism. A few years ago, I might have said Tony Romo, because if Eli can have two, Romo deserves to have one of them. Now, I might look at a guy like a Phillip Rivers or a Matt Ryan might be the guys that I would say, hey, I'm sure that'll make you happy, Chase, with me saying Phillip Rivers, but I mean that. Phillip Rivers has been in the league. He's going into his 15th season in the league. Isn't that crazy? Decade and a half now. He's got borderline Hall of Fame prospects similar to Matt Ryan. A ring would really help them take that final step probably. So I look at Phillip Rivers and Matt Ryan, and I say those are guys that I'd be really, really happy to see them win a Super Bowl before their career ended. Similar to Ovechkin with the Cup this year. Jimmy G. SUS. Should the 49ers go after Dez Bryant? Maybe. You'd have to give a clear expectation that you're not coming in here and ruining this locker room. If you try it, you're gone. But I feel like they could still use an upgrade at the wide receiver position. How much of an upgrade Dez Bryant could provide, I guess, depends. But maybe he's at least worth kicking the tires on. Rob Lewis. What coaches should be fired if their teams disappoint? It's a running thing with Marvin Lewis in Cincinnati. Should be fired. But if teams disappoint, if the Steelers don't make it to the Super Bowl this year, Tomlin has to go. You cannot continue to waste time hoping that he figures it out. If the Steelers don't at least get to the Super Bowl, Tomlin must go. Other teams where if they disappoint, the coach's job should be at stake. I would say for the Seahawks, it's not so much a thing of firing him, but if the things don't start off well and don't go well, I wouldn't be surprised if it's Pete Carroll's last year in Seattle. So those would be maybe a couple that I could think of right now. Carmine Kappa. Who will defenses fear more in the NFL? OBJ or Saquon Barkley? That's a great question. Because OBJ is a game changer. OBJ is a difference maker. He's a big play guy. He's a home run threat every time you potentially target him. But Saquon Barkley could potentially have that too, and he can do that in a variety of ways. I think when you look at it in terms of trying to game plan, you have to put more effort into trying to game plan against Saquon, both as a runner and as a receiver. I think the big play element is still more feared out of OBJ, if that helps answer your question. Lawrence Grani asked, if you were the Giants GM, would you still play Eli as your franchise quarterback? I wouldn't be sitting there and sticking everything I had into him and hoping that it works out. That's one thing if you were starting him in 2018 and you drafted somebody like Sam Darnold and you said, well, let Eli play for now, and Sam Darnold sits there and learns and maybe puts some pressure on Eli, that's different. But going into the season with him as the unquestioned guy and maybe into next year with him as the unquestioned guy, I kind of question that a little bit myself. And is Stephon Diggs a franchise wide receiver? He's a really, really good wide receiver, but is he in the classification of an Antonio Brown, a Julio Jones, an A.J. Green type of guy, an Odell Beckham Jr. type, a Mike Evans type? Absolutely not. He's part of that second tier, that second wave of pretty good wide receivers. Longwood asks, are there any good quarterbacks in the 2019 NFL Draft? I will be honest, I see some guys with potential. I see none of them that I'm ready to crown their ass just yet. But I can anticipate a couple of them becoming first-round caliber guys and us being big on them in another year. But right now, I'm not seeing it yet. Also, AFC or NFC NY? It's the NFC because I'm a Bears fan. That's naturally where kind of the heart and loyalty is. When I was growing up, you think about pretty much throughout all of my childhood, the NFC was the vastly superior conference. Like, you know, after the Raiders were the champions in the 83 season, the NFC won every single Super Bowl until we got to the, 97 season when the Broncos finally won and Elway finally got his first title. It was a long, long stretch where the NFC absolutely dominated things. So it's NFC. It's just the way it is. So that's it for part 1 of this Q&A. I thank everybody for their questions. I'll be back with part 2 where we talk about some other stuff. Yeehaw! See you then.